it is hitting that younger generation, and it's. I mean, it's my hope that I'll see these kids grow up to be adults and maybe do their own books someday, and they'll be like, you know, these are the books that made me feel like as a little girl I could do this as a grown-up too, just like you. So that's also very positive and inspiring to know that, you know, you could help, especially like more girls get into it, because these stories are meant for them. I know it's at that demographic unexpectedly, but it is meant for the girls. So I like to know that they're encouraged that could be an option for them if they've got the passion for it. So.
Troy, you mentioned that your comic book was released some time after the original cartoon was stopped airing. So I was wondering, from your perspective, when the book was released, did you have more readers who just started the adventure with Powerpuff Girls, or there were more people who were watching the cartoon when they were kids, now they are adults and they started to buy your book?
I found once I would go to a show with the book on the table, it would hit the nostalgia really quick with people. And because Powerpuff Girls is great for, I mean, girls, boys love it because it's action and they kick butt, you know, like they're so great. And adults will watch it because it's funny, you know, so it kind of hits everybody. It's one of those weird shows that just works for everybody. And so people who watched it and loved it grew up, and now they're like, I'm going to watch it again with my kids. And so now their kids are getting to watch it. It's like, oh, you know, it's actually cartoon parents want to watch, you know, and not something they have to watch, like Paw Patrol or something, you know. But it's actually really good, so they want to show their kids. But I'll have people just gasp when they come by the table and they'll see Powerpuff Girls, you know, like, and it's like, I was Bubbles and I was Blossom and my sister was Buttercup, and, you know. And I've seen some great people just doing cosplay variations of it. I've seen guys dressed as the Powerpuff Girls and him, and one of the best ones I ever saw was in San Diego. They had a guy dressed as Mojo Jojo and his little like baby daughter dressed as Bubbles sitting on his shoulder.
Aww.
And she would punch him in the head. And his, oh. Yeah. It's great. So it seems to be like, I don't know, I guess, really good for the nostalgia as well as like the next generation kind of are being fed to it like by their parents kind of thing who loved it as well.
Yeah.
Guys, do you have any questions?
I just want to ask about your work with Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Oh yeah.
It's very far from Powerpuff Girls and
yeah.
What was the difficulties when you are adapting Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas from Hunter Thompson? It's a lot of taking drugs, drink alcohol and other stuff, and it's just other stuff.
And the funny thing is, I was working on Powerpuff Girls at the time. When I got in, I was submitting some artwork, and like, here's these week's pages, you know, and they said, oh, things are looking great. P.S. Would you be interested in pitching for Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas? And I was like, well, yeah, obviously get the Powerpuff guy to do that. That's a perfect fit for that. But it happens to be one of my like all-time favorite novels. So for me, I'm like, yeah. But then I wouldn't do it because I would psych myself out. I'm like, I can't do that. That book is like too important to me. I love that book. There's no way I could do justice to it. So I just wouldn't do it, you know?
You were putting off the drawings.
So eventually they said, you know, they're waiting to see something. Are you going to do this? I said, give me a deadline. They said Monday. I'm like, fine. Drew something, sent it off, and then I was like, damn it, I blew it. You know, I just knew I didn't get it. And then 2 days later they said, you're done Powerpuff Girls. You're going to spend the next year adapting Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Because the estate loved it, you know, so I'm like, wow. And I'd found out, like, after the fact, like, they had been looking for a long time for the right fit for the artists for this project. They'd gone to all kinds of people before me. Obviously, I wasn't their first choice. They hadn't thought of me because I do Powerpuff Girls. But I guess when they, somebody suggested, what about Troy Little? And they went, huh, that could work. And when they saw the pitch, they're like, that's what we were looking for. And nobody had given it to them. So that felt really good to me that I nailed it. But a lot of that is because I love the book so much that I couldn't do it a disservice. So I'm like, I'm never going to be happy with it. It's never going to live up to the book itself. Read the book, but I want to make it as good as I can to kind of like fit. You've got the movie, you've got the novel, and this is other thing, and they all kind of work together, and hopefully people like it. And I know because it's a journalism thing as well, a lot of journalists got into writing because of Hunter Thompson, and they were really not happy with the idea that somebody was going to come along who wasn't Ralph Steadman and do a comic book version of their Holy Grail novel. And what was really gratifying to me was after the book finally came out, the reviewers who would give the big caveat saying, you know, full disclosure, I love this book, da-da-da. When I heard it, I thought it was a bad idea, da-da-da. And they tell you all this stuff about why they thought it was going to be bad. And they're like, but it's actually really good. Why did you take so long?
20 sentences.
I know, everyone was like that. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for me, like, that was not only wonderful, but then I said to the publisher, you know, you should send me down to the Beverly Hills Hotel in LA. I'll dress like Hunter Thompson, Singapore slings with mezcal on the side. We do a cross-country burn through the desert to Vegas and do a book tour. And they said, okay. So yeah, they rented me a convertible and we did the whole Hunter Thompson book tour through Vegas. It was such a great time. So doing the book was great, and then kind of like reliving the footsteps of Hunter Thompson's travel was really cool as well.
I would like to ask you one small question because I have the issue that you mentioned with the gas chamber. I remember reading this issue, and I don't know if I interpreted it good, so I need to ask because there's one little section, this little thing here when Miss Sarah is reading that book, and there's halves, right?
Yeah.
Halves and hearts. Is it romance criminal novel or is it something else?
I think it was like around when 50 Shades of Grey was super popular, so you put that in.
All right, so I guessed good. Thank you very much. Good call. Mystery solved. Well, I would like to ask you also about your personal stuff, original comic books. What kind of stories you like to tell in comic books? What kind of themes and meaning you would like to share with your readers? What are the stories you love to tell people?
Yeah, I tend to like things set in like some sort of fantasy element to it. So even if it could be like your average day student at school, if there's like some sort of supernatural or magical element, I like that kind of stuff. But yeah, my personal project that I've been self-publishing over the years, Halls of the Turnip King, that's more just silly comedy fantasy. Like it's not so much like deep meaning I need to tell the people. I'm just like, let's have some fun and have some fun gags, because it's about like this lazy, reluctant prince whose dad kind of like boots him out of the castle to go do his duty, like go make some alliances like with the dwarves, like the Dwarven Kingdom, to go do that. And he kind of messes up along the way because he's not very competent. And another creator-owned book that I did, I collaborated with a writer on, and it's called Ward's Valley. The writer's Bobby Curnow. He's based out of San Diego, and he does the editing on the Pony comics for IDW, so that's how we got in contact. And his is about, it's also a fantasy, and it takes place in this forest. It's called Ward's Valley. And Ward's the gnome, he's kind of the overseer for the animals and stuff like that. But he has to protect them from the trolls that have been showing up, made out of mud, and they're kind of mysterious, the origin of them, and also the humans are starting to come into the ecosystem, so he's like, I don't know what these new species are, and I don't know how to protect the animals, and his method is just to be grumpy and tell them to go away, which doesn't work. But yeah, that's really good, because it kind of deals, like it's in all ages, like it's for kids and adults. Anybody can enjoy it, but it's good because it's got that fun fantasy element, but also deals with themes of loss and getting over the past and moving forward, which is really nice, and it kind of makes it more poignant that way. Yeah, moving forward, I'd like to do more stories like that. I love ponies, but I'd love to do more of those if I could, and like tell more personal stories, like personal themes and things I'm going through or have gone through in life. Just you know, accepting yourself for who you are, those things, and growing up and kind of fitting into your own skin as you do so, and telling those kind of stories, but throwing some fantasy in there. That's kind of where I'd like to go with that. So.
Guys, you've got kids.
Yes.
How does your work influence your kids? Because you both
It's normal.
do the same
It's
thing,
kind
right?
of normal to them in a weird way, but they love the girls now. They're 12 and a half, and they love going to the conventions with us when they can. And they've discovered manga and anime. So
Oh yes.
game over, game over
Yes.
for them. That's all they do is. One of their favorite things to do though is like after school they'll say I'll go pick them up at school and they're like, can we go to the coffee shop and draw? Like I keep them in sketchbooks constantly. They just fill them with their characters and their drawings, and they'll just draw funny things to make each other laugh and stuff. So, you know, we all just draw all the time, really.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, the 5-year-old is a little young to be, like he's not really getting into the drawing yet, but he likes to read the comics. He loves being read to. Read me a book, read me a book. And he's always, Mommy, draw me a Pikachu. Mommy, draw me a... So
You
I'm
draw
his
a lot.
on-demand Pokemon artist.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, so we just draw, or like he's really into the life cycle of frogs, so the eggs and the tadpoles, and then they lose the tail and grow the legs. He asks me to draw that a lot too, and he tries to draw his own frogs. But mostly, for him, I read to him and I draw him Pokemon on demand. That's
so
his.
basically it's a fun thing to have parents who draw, both of them.
I think the kids enjoy it. Like
Yeah.
it's hard to tell where our studio in the home ends and their room begins because
Yeah.
it's all comic books and manga and toys and whatever.
Yeah.
So.
I would like to ask you about one thing, because do you now or in the near future, do you see yourself creating mostly or mainly your own creative own stuff, or do you like to have your own creative stuff and also working with licensed titles like My Little Pony or Powerpuff Girls? Because as far as I know, recently Chelsea Kane wrote on her Twitter that she is publishing manager with Image Comics, and she wanted to put everything into this project, and she suddenly said that it doesn't work very well when you only concentrate on your creating own stuff, because it don't bring money as much as the licensing stuff. So I'd like to ask you, do you want to work into this situation when you only have created all these things, or do you like to have mixed work?
We both would probably rather if we would be able to do our own thing and make a living at it. So a lot of the licensed work, it's great if you can find a project you enjoy, which we've luckily been able to do that. It does take up most of the time. So the stuff that we really want to do is always after hours, if there is such a thing.
Yes.
You know,
Is it
spare
20
time.
days for something, right?
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
have a short deadline.
Yeah,
you have to
like
release it.
Brenda did her Turnip King book, like,
It took 7 years
Yeah.
because, just everything else, like having to do the day job, and then I decided why not start my career in comics with My Little Pony, get married, and have a kid all at once. That's easy, right? So, no, it's not that easy. I didn't pace myself, so it's all at once. But yeah, for the licensing, it depends on what the project is, because like I say, I approached ponies because it suited me, but to find something else like that, I tend to be kind of choosy, so that's why I'm not on a bunch of different things. So it really depends on what's being licensed. If there's something that really resonates with me, I'll go for that. But yeah.
And I was always hoping my Angor napkin project would take off. I spent like almost 20 years working on these books and cartoons, and I kind of have to wrap it up because I'm like, if it was going to be a thing, it would be by now. I mean, it's done well enough that I got 2 books, and both those books were Eisner nominated, which was awesome. And we made an animated pilot, and that was great. And I got another book that's coming out, hopefully in the fall through Kickstarter. But I think it's like, okay, it's time to do something else and try some new things, you know? I was always hoping that would be my big project that would take off. Because it's so much fun to draw, and the characters are so silly, and I just like writing and drawing them. But, oh well, I did that, now it's time to do something else.
I just want to ask you about your work with Kevin Eastman, with the Ninja Turtle creator. I just found that you are working with him with about 2 projects. I will read it because I didn't remember the whole titles.
Yes.
The graphic novel Drawing Blood.
Drawing Blood and the radically rearranged running ragdolls. Yes.
I was a backer of it.
What's that?
I was a backer of it.
Oh yes?
Yeah.
Excellent. Yes, my man. That was a very cool thing and a random. I grew up with Ninja Turtles, black and white, Mirage Studios. I know, I see your shirt. issue 4 was my first Ninja Turtle comic, and so for me, like, getting to meet Kevin Eastman when I was on the Fear and Loathing book tour in San Diego was pretty crazy. I was doing a signing there, and they said, "Would you mind if Kevin Eastman sat next to you and did some signings?" I'm like, "What?" So he was super cool. We got to chat, and he's so humble and down to earth and great. And then a couple of years later, he just emails me out of the blue and says, "I got a project that I think you'd be a really good fit on. Would you like to talk?" No, I'm not like that. But he's just such a good guy that he's
That's
easy.
how you feel in your mind.
Yeah, in
You're
your
like,
brain.
I must have sounded. No, you didn't sound, but in my mind.
So yeah, we started telling me the idea of how he wants to develop this kind of meta-fiction about this character Shane Bookman and his brother Paul Bookman, who created the Ragdoll characters in the 90s. Very much kind of a parallel with the Ninja Turtles thing. And so that guy working with Ben Bishop, David Avalone, and Kevin as writers there. And we would kind of mix in, Kevin threw in some flashback scenes in the Drawing Blood book. I would draw the parts where Shane was hallucinating, having bad memories of trips. And then when we did the Kickstarter, one of the stretch goals was to do like the issue 1 Ragdolls comic that Shane and his brother created in the 90s. And when we hit the goal on the last day, we said, okay, we're doing this, you know. Kevin drew every page layouts, and we designed the cats together, me, Kevin, and Ben, until we got something we kind of liked. Each cat's named after an anime director, like Otomo, Tezuka, and Miyazaki. And we drew, I kind of took his layouts and drew my style over top of that kind of thing, you know, to make it a tight illustration. So that's kind of how we made that issue 1 comic. And it just came out in North America. Kevin's first time back self-publishing since Ninja Turtles. He's trying to make this his new self-published project kind of thing. And we're working on the next one right now. Ben's working on the 2nd volume of Drawing Blood, and I've got, with David, we co-wrote 2 more issues of Ragdolls. And it's going to be in the next evolution of that. So it's going to be a lot of fun. As soon as I'm done the Rick and Morty project we just announced at D&D Live, I'm going to be moving over to finish that.
Well, we have last 3 minutes, and I cannot hold myself to ask one question because you mentioned anime and manga, and I just need to ask you, what is your favorite anime and manga?
Yeah, of course, growing up, I liked Sailor Moon and anything by that group Clamp, like Cardcaptor Sakura. Magic Knight Rayearth was really, that was my first one I saw from them, so that has an extra special place in my heart, is Magic Knight Rayearth. So those are my 2, and of course, it's funny, I say my kid likes Pokemon. I love Pokemon because it was brand new when I was in maybe 5th grade. It was when it came out, and yeah, the ones on TV, like Vision of Escaflowne was on TV, and it's there's probably more of them, but those are like the main ones. Like, yeah,
I think Star Blazers was the first one I ever seen. Star Blazers, Battle of the Planets, and then it got into Voltron, and Robotech was basically the gateway drug. But when Akira came out on VHS, I lost my mind. I was the only person on our island, Prince Edward Island, who had a copy of it, so everyone had to come to my house to watch it. And so I watched it a lot. But yeah, going from there was just, you know, wow, there's so much to choose from. You know, I love Death Note, Yotsuba. I can't even remember all. You've got so much manga on your shelves I haven't touched yet.
Any Beavis and Butthead?
Beavis and Butthead? I drew a pitch for a Beavis and Butthead comic, but it never got picked up. I don't know how that would go.
So we need to wrap up things. So thank you very much for talking with us, and well, we hope we'll see you soon again.
Yeah,
Awesome.
thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, awesome time here, Poland. Great show.
Great program.
And that's
All right.